In a world where nothing is known, nothing is certain, reality is not real. Wake up! Be afraid of nothing. I'm Bob Heskey.
Robert.
The host with the ghost.
This is my podcast, based on my paranormal documentary, Afraid of Nothing. Each episode, we talk to people who see life and the afterlife through a different lens. Join me.
Who is this large man? And what's he doing in our bedroom?
As we lift the veil and open our minds to see beyond our eyes lie. This is Afraid of Nothing.
Been on the show a couple times. His name is Preston Dennett. Preston, welcome to the show tonight.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a good time to have you. This is June 2nd when we're taping this, and coming soon in 10 days is Disclosure Day, the movie coming out, and then all the speculation about what alien disclosure actually means. So let's start first before we dive into that. If you could just please introduce yourself to the audience who don't know who you are and kind of the experience you have in ufology and ufology.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. I came into this field a long time ago, actually. I was 21 years old. It was 1986. I was a profound skeptic. I really did not believe in any of this whatsoever. Even though some years earlier, my older brother Mark had come running into the house. I was probably 13 years old, saying he'd seen a UFO. I did not believe him. That, of course, all changed for me. I can remember the exact date. It was November 17, 1986. And if you're into ufology, you know about that date, because that was the day Captain Kenju Torochi of JAL Airlines saw a UFO over Alaska. He and his crew. A great case. I mean, there was radar confirmation, a lot to it. Of course, the news coverage was really tongue-in-cheek, very brief. But I saw this report on the news, and it kind of knocked me over. I'm like, wow, this pilot thinks he saw a UFO. That's weird because UFOs aren't real. The stars are too far away. He must be hallucinating. He's crazy. All the debunking explanations our governments have put forth for years. I bought into that. But it reminded me of my brother's encounter. So I went up to him and I asked, Mark, what did you see all those years ago? And now I was ready to listen to him, I guess. And he described this amazing encounter. I mean, a really close-up encounter of a metallic disc, colored lights, a dome on top. He chased it down Reseda Boulevard, this is in Southern California, with his two friends, who I knew quite well, Phil and Greg. He said, talk to them, they'll confirm my story, which of course I did, and they confirmed it, added new details. So it kind of just rolled out from there. I mean, it wasn't good news as far as I was concerned because the subject wasn't being taught in schools. It really wasn't being taken seriously in the media. I found out very quickly there's a cover-up. I started buying books on this subject. I started asking everyone I knew, had you seen a UFO? And Robert, what a shock I got when I found out that I had a number of people in my family, friends, coworkers who'd had really dramatic encounters. By that, I mean full-on missing time, face-to-face encounters with ETs, the whole deal. So about a year into it, I joined MUFON, really started doubling down, investigating and reading books, going to conventions. Pretty soon, I was writing articles, going on the radio. I started speaking. I got some TV offers right off the bat, which was astounding to me. And after about 10 years of research, and about 30 or 40 articles, I put out my first book, UFO Healings, and really haven't looked back since then.
Let's talk about your MUFON experience. What was it like being an investigator when you first started to what it is now like today?
Yeah, well, it was very new to me all those years ago. I think I joined MUFON in 88, early 88, and it was thrilling. I mean, I had no idea that there were people out there who were studying this in a very serious way. Back then, this was LA MUFON. It was a tiny little group of about 10 people meeting monthly in the back of a bank building. And within the space of, a few years, that group had to move because it grew very quickly. And soon there was, 100 people attending each month. Standing room only, you had to come early. So the subjects really exploded around the time I got into it. And I immediately started getting cases because there weren't a lot of us who were researchers. I did take the MUFON field investigator test. Now they provide training. Back then they didn't. They just kind of threw you into the deep end. And they said, here, take this test. It's a take-home test. And I thought, well, this will be easy. It's a take-home test. There was no internet at that time, but, we had libraries and so forth. But it was not an easy test. It had like 200 questions, if I remember, and a whole section on photography. Thankfully, my sister was really into that at the time. Astronomy, I was taking that class in college, or had taken it, so I was pretty good with that. But a whole section on weather, which was quite detailed. Of course, the UFO history section, that was a breeze. I aced that easily. I actually did really well on the test, and I started getting my first cases, most of which were anomalous lights in the night sky, the most common type of sighting. But every now and then, a daylight disc, as we call them, a few humanoid cases, those were rare, and often the witness would kind of pull out of the investigation. Whereas now, of course, the subject is so much more popular, and there are so many people who are coming forward and sharing their experiences, because back then there was a lot of skepticism. It's much worse than it is today, the gaslighting and the debunking. But yeah, it's definitely changed over the years.
And you're still a MUFON investigator?
Technically, yeah, I do. I'm still part of the organization. I ended up working pretty much independently. I do speak often for the MUFON groups, but after submitting a number of cases and just kind of seeing them disappear into the system, well, not disappear, I mean, they would go to now it's much more sophisticated with the CMS system and that sort of thing. But ultimately, I just found more freedom going independently. I still support MUFON. There's lots of really wonderful people in it who are very dedicated to this subject. But yeah, I mostly work independently at this point.
So you have written over 30 books, if I'm correct. Is that with your latest book? Is it how many books have you written total so far?
Yeah, it's 32, with the 33rd very close to finished, and several others in the pipeline. I've got a lot of books I want to write.
Yeah, so there's a lot of flavors of UFO that you've written about. Want to give us just the high notes before we talk about the most recent one? What are the range of books and topics that you've covered?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is an Afraid of Nothing paranormal podcast alert.
$10 merch. $10 merch.
That's right, podcast fans. If you go to our website, afraidofnothingpodcast.com, and click on the store tab, you too can find now $10 merch on the website. So not only can you get the great stuff like the hoodies and the t-shirts and the blankets and the glasses, you can also get stickers and bumper stickers and, well, a whole lot more. You need to see it yourself. But just remember this.
$10 merch
is now available at the Afraid of Nothing podcast store. Check it out. And remember, never be afraid to look good.
Well, as I mentioned, the first one was about healing cases, people who were healed as a result of a UFO encounter. I was actually going to write an article, but I found 30 cases off the bat, some of my own. And digging deep into the literature, I found over 100. I've since put that book out as an updated edition the healing power of UFOs, because I found over 300 cases. And honestly, I could write another. And that was followed up by 1 in 40, the UFO epidemic, which never did that well due to the publisher and some problems with that. Again, back then, the subject was not very popular and was super niche. I mean, it was very hard to find a publisher. But that one was about my family's and friends' experiences mostly. Then in 1992, there was a huge wave of sightings over my hometown, Topanga Canyon. This is located in the Santa Monica mountain range in Southern California. And it raged for 2 years, producing really the entire range of encounters. So I ended up writing that book, UFOs Over Topanga, which I just got the rights back. I'm going to reissue that because I've got a lot more new information. And extraterrestrial visitations, because I really started to focus my research on cases of people who've had direct contact. To me, that's where the answers are. Then I did a whole series on UFOs over various states, starting with California, because I noticed that there was sort of a gap in the literature about this in terms of regional coverage of UFO encounters. So I followed UFOs over California with New York, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, and New Mexico. And now I'm very happy to see that people all across the United States, and really the world, have kind of picked up the torch with that and are writing books about their own states. But I really branched out. I also started writing a lot about the paranormal. So I've got books on ghosts and Bigfoot and out-of-body experiences and things like that, because there's a connection there.
Now, you've had out-of-body experiences. Is that correct? Have you done that before?
Yeah, that kind of came around the same time, weirdly enough. I always thought it was kind of a synchronicity. But now, as someone who's researched a lot of people who've had contact, I see there is a pattern there. Contactees, generally speaking, start having all range of encounters in terms of the paranormal. And people who start investigating the subject start having UFO encounters themselves. I think it was Ed Conroy, the journalist who studied Whitley Strieber's case and wrote a book on it, coined that term, because after hanging out with Whitley Strieber, he started having his own experiences.
Is that because astral travel is interdimensional, or what? What do you think there? Why do you think that kind of opens the door to UFO encounters or alien encounters?
Yeah, I can't say for sure. I've got a couple of theories. I think one is finding out that UFOs are real is something that really expands your paradigm, your worldview, really allows you to consider new ideas. But I think it's even more than that. It was something I pursued vigorously, having experienced the death of my mother around that time in 1984, which really made me curious about the idea of life after death. So there is that. But I think there's more going on here because when someone even just sees a UFO, this can cause an escalation in their psychic abilities. This is particularly prominent if a person is having direct contact, which ultimately I ended up having. I mean, it is in my family. My sister had missing time. I think my brother did as well. I wasn't completely sure of that at the time regarding this sighting because he ended up having an implant or something in his arm. But his wife has had direct encounters with humanoids. My other brother's wife saw grays. So it's in my family. As we know, this phenomena does seem to track families. So I think at some point I had to kind of come to the realization that, yeah, I would probably be what you call a contactee. And that started really at that time I started researching this. And if you look at contactees, almost all of them will have experiences with astral projection or mediumship or remote viewing or healing. I mean, really the whole range of psychic abilities, precognition, you name it.
Do you think that's because they're vibrating on a higher level and they're open to more frequencies to let in and to be aware of?
I'm not trying to use those terms. I think you're on the right track. When someone has contact, the ETs are very psychically developed. And we know this. They communicate telepathically, they're levitating, they're doing all these kinds of things. And when you hang out with people who are like that and doing that, I mean, they're talking to you telepathically, and you're talking back to them telepathically. So in a way, it sort of maybe reminds you or ignites that in you or elevates that ability. I think it's a little bit of a two-way street, because often we do see people who are already experiencing psychic abilities then start having contact. But yeah, there's a connection there, which is still, I think, needs some parsing out or further investigation. It's not fully understood. I don't fully understand it.
So have you been abducted, or have you just been contacted, but you weren't taken up to a spaceship? Have you had any of those experiences, Preston?
I have. Yeah, I don't use the term abducted because I started to get in trouble with some of the people I was interviewing who don't like that term. But the first thing I did when I found out UFOs were real was, of course, to examine my own history. Like, have I ever seen a UFO? And I couldn't really point to anything. But some years into this, investigating this subject, I did remember an incident as a child of about age 9, maybe 11, where I did have missing time. Long story short, I was in my bedroom and missed lunch. Now, there's 6 kids in my family. You don't miss lunch or you won't eat till dinner. And we were not wealthy by any means. So I was kind of waiting, and nobody ever came in. And finally, I walked out, and it's like 3 o'clock. I'm like, where's lunch? What's going on? And they're like, we called you. I'm like, no, you didn't. I was in my room the whole time. Like, no, you weren't. We checked. I wasn't hiding or anything. So, that's a little ambiguous, certainly, but I remembered that. And when I started investigating this subject, it took a few years, but I started having sightings, and they started getting closer and closer. And then a few started to involve telepathic communication. And really, how would I put this? Put the nail in the coffin in 1992, July, when I was driving home from my brother and sister-in-law's house. This was during the investigation into the Topanga Canyon UFO wave. I had no sooner left their house. This was in Woodland Hills, California. Coming around a corner, and I thought it was a bird swooping down towards my car. Very quickly realized it wasn't, because it was glowing and it was round. So now I'm thinking, well, it's a firecracker because it's late July. But, people had stopped pretty much shooting firecrackers, and it wasn't a firecracker. It was an orb, and it came down right in front of my windshield. So now I'm thinking, well, is that a reflection? Obviously not, because it's a foot away from me, and now it's kind of wavering slightly and looking at me, and it's clearly intelligently controlled. My car has stopped. So I'm looking at this thing going, wow. When it kind of goes back and forth a couple of times and then stops again in front of me, moves forward and then goes straight up. And honestly, that's the last thing I remember. And I would always tell people, well, that's my little orb sighting, until someone asked me, well, what happened next? I don't remember driving home. And here's the thing which, as anyone who's involved in the subject would know, sometimes people have amnesia, missing time. I didn't remember that sighting at all. I mean, I completely forgot about it. It kind of just popped back into my mind some months later. So now I'm thinking, oh, I had missing time.
Have you ever thought, Preston, about being hypnotized or doing regression type of, have you ever done that?
I haven't. And I've talked to a lot of people, and sometimes I recommend it, sometimes I don't. But always I tell people, first, write it down, try meditating, try working with your dreams to recall it. Because as you may know, Betty Barney Hill had missing time. She dreamt about her incident in detail, and it ended up being just as detailed and as accurate as her hypnosis sessions. And I see this a lot with other experiencers. And that's what happened to me. So I started to recall this through flashbacks and meditation and dreaming. And yeah, I recalled I was taken on board. There were other people there. It was a very large room.
Did you recognize any of the people that were there? Have you seen them later on in your life? Or okay.
No, these were all young men like me. No woman.
Wow, interesting.
but a very large room, and we were being shown kind of these free energy type motors. I don't have a whole lot of detail to this, but they were all these little boxes on separate tables, 2 people assigned to each table, and ETs in the background, which I couldn't really tell you what they looked like. But what I do recall is at some point that whole lesson ended. I was just trying to look at it, trying to figure this thing out, because there wasn't anything to it. It was just kind of this box. And they took us to the side of this enormous room and peeled back the wall. And it's so interesting because having interviewed people, I hear them describe this sort of thing. You don't see glass. You don't see a window. It's as if the wall is gone and you are staring at hard, cold space. And they showed us the Milky Way, and it was breathtaking. I mean, you can see it, all the pictures you want. It has nothing compared to real life. And that was the first of what ended up being many of these kinds of things. Most recently in 2022, I had a fully conscious onboard encounter where I was pulled from my bed through the wall into space, and then I find myself on a table. There's a hybrid lady looking down at me. Little grays next to me. I felt no fear. I think perhaps because I know what to expect. Fear of the unknown is really, I think, a big problem for people, but this wasn't unknown to me.
So there were no painful injections or things that you see in movies sometimes where they go into your eyeballs or whatever? There's none of that, right?
No. I mean,
and how has it changed your psychological mindset? I mean, because you seem very calm and balanced. Did it ever freak you out, or did you just kind of deal with it and say, you know what, this is my new reality?
In the beginning, I was, like I said earlier, it wasn't good news. For a year or two, I was pretty much off my rocker trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And then it was another big adjustment when I started realizing, oh my gosh, I'm having experiences. How do I deal with this? I've never felt fear with this. I've had a number of very close-up sightings. To me, it's always been thrilling. And to find myself on a craft, fully conscious, I was thrilled. I wanted to get up off that table, and they're like, no, we need to make sure you're okay. A beautiful lady was kind of examining me. She was what I would call half gray, half human, very large, blue wraparound eyes, very skinny, a snow white, crystal clean, seamless white jumpsuit. And she finally let me off the table, and there was a very tall gray. Now, what's really interesting is that I was interviewing this lady by the name of Dolly Saffron, who had fully conscious encounters. And we became very close, and I saw the craft when I met her face-to-face for the first time. And rushing up to this very tall gray, I recognized her as the main contact of Dolly Saffron, who, after talking to her, confirmed it. That this happened on my birthday. So it was kind of a gift to me. It was so cool to see, Robert, because you talk to so many people and you're like, oh, they say the room is round. I kind of always pictured the room being completely round like an egg inside, and you're walking on this round floor. No, it wasn't like that, but the walls were rounded up into the floor and so forth. And there was a domed ceiling. There was just little details that I had in my imagination that weren't quite accurate. But it was so much, it was amazing. It was probably one of the best experiences of my life.
So let me ask you, did you come from a religious family, or did you have faith growing up? And how have these experiences changed how you look at any faith you might have had growing up?
Yeah, my parents were raised Catholic, and my 3 older brothers were dragged to church. One day my father had a confession to my mom, says, you know what, I'm not taking the kids to church anymore. I'm taking them to the gas station and giving them ice cream and fixing up the car. And my mom laughed and said, well, I'm not taking them to church either. I'm taking them to the park and giving them the swing and giving them popcorn. They rebelled against religion. So I wasn't raised that way. And when I started discovering UFOs were real, my mom had passed away, but my father says, well, maybe I should have taken you to church because you're losing your mind. It really kind of divided my family to some degree. My brother Mark and my sister Valerie were fine with it because they'd had experiences. My sister Victoria was sort of agnostic about it all. But my brother Jamie and Steven thought I had lost my marbles. But as I started to really dive deeper into this, it absolutely, I'd say, didn't make me religious, but gave me a real strong sense of, for lack of a better word, spirituality. And I see this with other contactees, because I've interviewed some people who are profoundly religious and others who are profoundly atheist. And it's really difficult on both sides for them. And they tend to move a little bit towards the center, not towards agnosticism, but again, towards spirituality again.
So do you think these are extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings that or do you not know? Or are they already here? Are they underwater, or because you wrote a book about USOs. USOs, underwater or unidentified sea objects, I think, right?
Yeah, submersible, submerged, either way, USOs.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing as UFOs, but the term UFO clearly isn't accurate. Yeah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? Who are these guys? Where do they come from? Why are they here? And so forth. And this is something I can really speak to, I think, with some authority, because I've had my own experiences. I've seen these guys face to face, talked to a lot of people. And there's, I would say, 5 major theories out there, or explanations that people are putting forth. Everything from time traveler to the future, the Jacques Vallée sort of explanation that this is intelligence that wears different masks, ultra-terrestrials, interdimensional beings, ETs in the classic sense, and so forth. And so really buckling down on that idea, I can tell you that the vast majority of researchers who focus on cases of direct contact have essentially concluded they're extraterrestrial, people like us. And that's true for the vast majority of contactees. Certainly not everyone. That is the explanation I favor. Absolutely. I think it's the explanation that best fits the totality of the evidence. Now, interdimensional. That's a kind of a trick question, because I think if you study the idea of interdimensionality, all entities are interdimensional. We certainly are as humans. I mean, we have an astral body. I think the evidence for life after death is profoundly convincing. We can go out of body. If you just look at the accounts of near-death experiencers, I think we've pretty much proved that there's something going on here. So my point is, I think that, yeah, all entities have an interdimensional aspect. So I'm not sure how useful it is to call ETs interdimensional. Because, yeah, they are. And I think they have a much better understanding and use of other dimensions than perhaps we do. So
let me just interrupt real quick, if you don't mind. So there were 3 options, right? They're us time traveling back from the future to us, but they're kind of iterations of us coming back. Another one is extraterrestrial, where they're within our galaxy, our solar system, interdimensional, like quantum physics. They're in another dimension, right? And I think what you said is most of the people you talk to think they're extraterrestrial, but if you believe in quantum physics and there are multiple dimensions, where we're in multiple dimensions, ETs are in multiple dimensions too. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think interdimensionality does not preclude extraterrestrial origins. So I think that you can have both. Now, as far as them being time travelers from the future, I scoured the literature. I found a few cases that sort of hint at that, but none that were at all convincing to me. So I don't think that explanation holds water really at all.
Now, you mentioned, if you don't mind, Preston, you mentioned that your experiences kind of increased your spirituality. Is that because these extraterrestrial beings, were spiritual, or do you think the source of the spirituality is not just man, but it's everybody? Is that what I'm just curious about that? What your thought process was going through all this?
Yeah, well, I think that these ETs are incredibly advanced psychically, and they really bring that to a person when you start dealing with them. You start to get a sense of that. We're all an integral part of this universe. We're all connected. We are all one. That is a message ETs give to contactees over and over again. They tell them that we share a common ancestry, that we have a common heritage. They'll use the exact phrase. I've heard it a dozen times. We are you, you are us, we are one. It's really interesting when I'm interviewing someone and they say this. I'm like, wow, I've heard that before. So I think there's the ETs really trying to provide some explanation as to our relationship to them, which I think is much closer than we realize, because let's face it, some of these guys do look just like us, and they are all essentially humanoid, almost without exception. There's a few outlying cases. But real quick, I do want to address Jacques Vallée's theory of this intelligence wearing different masks, because I dived deep into that one. It's a very popular theory. It's second most popular, easily. And I don't think it holds water. It's entirely speculative. If you look at Jacques Vallée's 5 main reasons for supporting this theory, they're not fact-based whatsoever. He says basically, there's no chance ETs would look like us. Well, that's speculation. How can you say that unless you know? He says there's far too many cases of this. ETs wouldn't be that numerous. It wouldn't be that many contacts. He says it's too bizarre, this high strangeness aspect. Again, that's kind of speculative and not really fact-based, because I'm not speculating here. This is what the ETs have told contactees. And as far as demonic, no, I ended up buying all the books on demonology and spirits and ghosts. I mean, multiple personalities, angels, all of this stuff. I think Jacques Vallée's best argument is the accounts of little people and fairies, which do show some really remarkable commonalities. But having really dived deep into that one too, I think there are little people who are interdimensional and are not ETs, because they appear in every culture and go back millennia.
Are they like the Jinn, or what? I'm trying to think of the Jinn or whatever. Is that what they are, or what would you think they are if they're not extraterrestrials?
I think the little people are a type of being that is interdimensional that can appear here on Earth. I think the Jinn would be more akin to a demonic spirit, a trickster spirit. So those are real too. I have no doubt about it. I think we're dealing with a lot of things here, and people have a tendency to want to label things and perhaps put all the eggs into one simple basket and tie it up neatly with a bow. And I don't think that that's accurate. I think that's a mistake, because I think we're dealing with separate things here. I think a Bigfoot is a Bigfoot, and a little person, a fairy, so to speak, is exactly that. More research is needed with this, but the extraterrestrial explanation fits much better than any of these, because we have accounts of reverse engineering of technology. We have implant removal cases. These things are appearing on radar. There's metal fragments. People have disappearing pregnancies. Where are these pregnancies going? It just doesn't make sense that this would be some intelligence. Because where are people when they're not in their rooms and they're reporting a missing time encounter or an onboard encounter? They're on board the craft. And we now have enough multiple witness cases to essentially say that, this is happening.
Is time different on board the craft versus here on Earth? Is it like, for example, could a day there be an hour here, or is it kind of parallel where they're both kind of the same?
I wouldn't put it quite like that. I think time flows essentially at the same rate, but ETs have this ability to pull you out of the third dimension. So a person might have an experience and they're taken on board and they have a 2-hour-long experience. Some are much longer than that. We're talking days or weeks even. And the ETs will bring them back within minutes, moments. So they have that ability. And I've talked to a number of people who've had that happen. So I think that they can do that. But essentially, when someone has missing time and they're on a craft and it's an hour goes by and they're returned an hour later, it's the same sort of time that we're dealing. They're not stopping time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You can't stop time in the entire universe.
Yep.
That does.
Or is there even time? I before we get to your latest book, I do want to ask you about Bigfoot. What's your thought about Bigfoot regarding, the theories of missing people in state parks and, it being able to kind of go through portals and time slips and things like that? What's your thought about? I mean, I always have this problem with Bigfoot where it's supposed to be super intelligent, but yet people talk about it throwing rocks, at people or something. I'm like, well, if it's super intelligent, why wouldn't it have a superpower or something? So what is your experience on the books that you did on Bigfoot, and what do you think it is?
Yeah. Well, I will start by saying we throw rocks too.
Yeah.
We are intelligent. And primate behavior, actually, there's a lot of rock throwing among primates. That's not unusual. I avoided the whole Bigfoot subject because I thought it would be a can of worms, and I really didn't want to go there, but finally had to when I started getting Bigfoot cases. And weirdly, some of these were directly connected to UFO encounters, which really complicated matters. Having researched the whole subject, most people who see Bigfoot aren't going to see a UFO, and vice versa. So I think what we're dealing with is another entity on this planet who has psychic abilities to a very pronounced degree, is intelligent, sentient, because people describe these things disappearing or absolutely having telepathic contact. That really surprised me when people describe having telepathic communication with these guys. I don't think they're ETs. I think the cases that we have where these two phenomena, extraterrestrials and Bigfoot, intersect is probably because some of these guys are being pulled on board. And I know how this sounds, are contactees, essentially, because we do see ETs contacting all forms of life on this planet.
Do you think Bigfoots are interdimensional then? That they can go through time slips and disappear? Is that rather than extraterrestrial, they're interdimensional? Is that what you think? Yeah,
I do.
Okay.
We ourselves do have these abilities. I mean, if you start studying superhuman abilities among monks and enlightened masters and these sort of things, they report all kinds of things like teleportation and levitation and invisibility and so forth. So I think this is something any entity can do once they become psychically advanced enough. And I think Bigfoot are that way. I think they're absolutely physical beings, very much like us. And I think the ETs are as well. But once you start getting really advanced, these abilities start to manifest. But absolutely, they're physical beings. I mean, we have hair samples, there's footprints, blood samples. The evidence for Bigfoot is absolutely outstanding. It's, in my mind, conclusive. Same with UFOs. Skeptics don't understand how much evidence there truly is. It would take a lifetime to study all of it, and you still wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, it's like the more I do this podcast, the more questions I have. You think there'd be more answered, but it opens up more questions. I want to spend a couple minutes and do justice to your new book. So give us a spiel on your new book that you just did, and give us some highlights from it, if you don't mind.
Well, I put out a few new books recently. One that I'm most proud of is fairly recent, is Symmetry, a true UFO adventure, which is the first-hand accounts of a contactee by the name of Dolly Safran, a tremendous witness because she is a registered nurse, former, retired, but also worked at the Department of Defense, in the military as well, a lifeguard, a zookeeper, a really amazing career, and has had more contact than anyone I've ever interviewed. Really more than anyone I've ever read about. So that's how extensive her case is. Starting at age 14, she had a missing time encounter, which she wouldn't allow it to be missing time because she was tired of that happening to her. And she was able to fully recall what happened, which was very much your standard taken on board, physically examined, given a tour of the craft, a sort of a conference, because that's what happens when people are taken on board. It's a very set series of events. They'll take you up to the control room, sit you on the pilot seat, say, would you like to fly the craft? That happened to her. They took her to the planet Saturn, gave her a little astronomy lesson, took her to the moon. It's an amazing case. Not unique, though. But from that point on, she had fully conscious contact, several times a month. So her case was so huge that I spent 6 years vetting her and got her medical records, which showed the presence of implants, healings, mysterious pregnancies. I interviewed her family, her friends. When I first met her, she didn't have a whole lot of photographic evidence, but I asked her for that, and she asked her ET contacts to provide it, and they did. And it's absolutely astounding photographic evidence. Her case is super extensive and easily one of my favorite cases of contact. I'm working on a sequel to that book right now. Another book I put out just after that was called Not From Here, Volume 5. I've put out a number of these volumes, well, obviously 5, but these were all based on articles I'd written for UFO magazines over the years, which really focus on weird patterns of UFO activity that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of. I'll give you a few examples. UFOs hovering over graveyards. Who knew that was a thing?
Yeah, really.
It is. It's really interesting because there was a case in Virginia.
Why would they? Why would they hover over graveyards?
I had my theories about that. I thought maybe they're collecting genetic material because we know genetic material can survive after death for some time. But Scott Corrales, who also started studying this subject, a very well-known researcher, brought up the point, I think they're probably retrieving implants. So I think that's definitely a possibility.
Oh, interesting. So there are abductees that had implants in their body and they were buried and they went back to reclaim those.
Yeah, because in the Robert Dean Memorial Cemetery case, the UFOs would show up right after the person was buried. I mean, it happened so often. There was UFO stakeouts.
Wow.
But I started looking into it. I mean, Raymond Fowler has a number of cases. Jalen Hynek has cases. Jim and Cora Lorenzen. This is absolutely a thing. I found 20, 30 cases of this. I'm still finding cases. So that was something that, like, wow, that's a weird pattern. But UFOs hovering over prisons, we know that they do show interest in anything technological.
Wow.
I found cases of them landing next to prisons, humanoids coming out.
Do they ever go over churches?
Certainly, I think there are some cases of that, but I haven't found that to be a super strong pattern.
So they go to prisons, they go to cemeteries, but not like the churches or places of faith. It's interesting. Okay.
I mean, there are a few cases. There was a very famous case where the UFO hovered over the Dome on the Rock, I think it was called, in Jerusalem, which was filmed from numerous locations. It's one of the best pieces of footage out there.
Huh.
But yeah, one pattern that I thought was just thrilling was UFOs over schoolyards.
Yeah.
Doing a whole book on that. I'm sure you've heard of the Rua Zimbabwe Aerial Elementary case.
Yep.
But, of course, there's the Westall High School case in Australia, Crestview Elementary in Florida, Broadhaven in Wales, Hillsdale, Michigan, the Hillsdale College case. Those are
Really? Hillsdale College had oh my gosh.
Yeah, I found 100, and 50% were at elementary schools, almost all daylight sightings.
Now, did you write a book about that yet, or is that kind of on the agenda to do?
No, I wrote a book all right, and I need to double it in size because every time I write a book, those cases come pouring in. And people are just like, oh my God, I had this happen.
Wow. Well,
yeah, it's amazing because these are very low-level sightings. In 1/3 of the cases, these craft are essentially landing or humanoids are being seen. And teachers are seeing this stuff too in half the cases. So it's not just the kids, but very widely viewed. And here's another pattern of UFO activity, which I was going to include in my Not From Here books, but I ended up putting a whole book out, UFOs over drive-in theaters.
really? That's so strange.
Yeah, I had my own case. I thought, oh, that's got to be a one-off.
And there aren't that many drive-ins left, really. There's like one or two near me in Massachusetts or Rhode Island, There aren't too many of those left.
No. So the heyday was really in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And it dropped off dramatically in the 80s and 90s. I got a few current cases. But boy, that is absolutely a thing. I found my first case at Paramount Drive-In in Southern California from 1971. And this is so interesting to me because in all these cases, these craft come down right over the screen or to either side and put on a show. By that, I mean they'll flash their lights. They'll release smaller craft. They'll dart around. It's what UFO researchers call a display, where they want to be seen.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they're showing up at prisons and at drive-in theaters and other places like that, they're certainly not hiding from sight. I do want to talk about one. Was there a book you did on hometown UFOs or UFOs in my hometown?
I have not put those in a book. So far, these are just videos on my YouTube channel, but I'm considering it because this was born from a challenge. Someone asked me to look up UFOs in their hometown. It was a tiny little town. I'm like, well, I don't know. It was like a few hundred people, but I found it because I've got access to a pretty darn huge database at this point. I've got a room filled with books, and you can see behind me a bookshelf filled with books as well. And so I put out the challenge: name any place on this planet, any town, any city, any location. I bet you I can find a UFO encounter there.
All right, so I'm going to give you a challenge. If you get a chance to it, let me know. You can email me later. Westminster, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's going to be easy, Robert. No problem.
Because it's right by Leominster, Monsterland. I don't know if you've heard of that with Bigfoot and stuff. Okay, that'll be great. Do you know off the top of your head, or?
I can't name a case right off the bat, but thanks to the work of Raymond Fowler, he covered Massachusetts really thoroughly. I have no doubt in my mind because people are naming. One guy thought, I'm going to stump you, and he named some town, some Eskimo town in the Arctic Circle. I got a little nervous there, but no, I found a case.
Yeah, there's Alaska Triangle, right? There's a lot of UFO activity up there, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the point is, I think the important takeaway from cases like these is, one, that UFO encounters are far, far, far more common than I think most people have any idea of. Because let's face it, if I can find a case anywhere on this planet, that means everywhere has been visited. And as any UFO researcher will tell you, and I'm going to be generous here and say 1 in 10 people report their encounter. It's much closer to 1 in 100.
Wow.
So,
that makes a good segue to our closing topics. Disclosure Day. That movie's coming out, and all of us, President Trump has been releasing more and more files of UAPs. What's your take on that, and what's your expectation? Are you going to go watch Disclosure Day, or do you think it's just going to be a bunch of Hollywood schlock and it's not worth watching? What's your thought on that?
I loved Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was a landmark film, which was very accurate. So I'm hoping that he kind of follows that. He's done the UFO topic a number of times, and not all of them, like E.T. the Extraterrestrial. It was interesting and had some truth to it, but how true was it?
I got to throw in a plug for Kyle, who couldn't be here. My co-host is Kyle Carver, and he was on one interview, one of the shows you were on with me. He actually had a small scene in Disclosure Day. He's waiting to find out if it made the cut and is going to be in the movie, but he actually got to be on set and meet Steven Spielberg. And I forget the name of the main actress, but I think it was with her that he had a very small scene with. But
Emily Blunt.
Yeah, Emily Blunt. Yeah, very small scene. So he's waiting to see if it's in there or not. So we'll see.
I'm looking forward to the movie. It's a tremendous time for ufology right now, with the documentary S4 doing really well. And I hope this film isn't too leaning towards horror, because I saw the previews and I'm a little bit worried about that.
Yeah. What did you think of Age of Disclosure? Did you see that documentary yet?
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea, I'm really excited to see so many whistleblowers coming out and talking about their experiences, but I'm also very wary of people from the intelligence sector. And I think some of these whistleblowers are absolutely genuine folks with a real story who are doing their best to put out the truth. But some, I think, are, how would I put this, stooges or being sanctioned to kind of releasing disinformation unknowingly, perhaps, and some knowingly. And some are just plain bad actors in the loop, part of the cabal, and putting forth a fear narrative that's not warranted, and sort of, hiding the fact that most of what people are seeing is not even ET. It's reverse engineering technology. I mean, if you talk to Michael Schratt, who is one of my favorite researchers out there, he's like 85%, 90% of what people have been seeing over the years is our own technology. And I had to really kind of adjust my research to really take a closer look at that.
So some people, the big argument coming up is, the Stephen Greer side is they're extraterrestrial beings, and and then on the government side, there's teasing that UFOs are demons, are fallen angels, and one side says don't let them fool you. They're just going to don't let them tell you that UFOs are fallen angels or demons. They're going to try to tell you, or the other third shot is that they're the creators of humanity. That's the third thing. So one is they're extraterrestrials. They just are in the galaxy with us. The other one is that they're fallen angels and that they've come here to deceive us. And probably part of that, or a different one, is that aliens created us, so that blows up all the religion in the world. So any thoughts on that, or we just wait and find out?
Yeah, well, here's my assessment. Disinformation, big time, in terms of these being demonic. That's purely speculative. I don't trust anything coming out of the government. I would never look to them for answers on this subject. I do think we're dealing with extraterrestrials. No, I don't think they created us. I don't think there's any good reporting on that. Don't believe the government. Don't believe me. I really think people need to do their own due diligence in studying this subject. And if you want to know the answers, the facts, pretty much everything we know about ETs comes from one source, and that's the people who've had these encounters. So I would request people who are really interested in this subject to look into the stories coming directly from contactees, being very wary about it, making sure that you're not listening to people who are fear-based or who are pushing disinformation, because we have this thing called MILABs, military abductions, which is really muddying the waters and painting this as a nefarious subject. But I think if you, real quick, take a close look at the events that take place when people are taken on board, you see a very prominent pattern of healing. Almost all researchers have healing cases, but guiding, teaching, warning, informing, the messages are very consistent from ETs, and it's very good for humanity. It's warnings against nuclear proliferation, greed and corruption, war and aggression, pollution, and the destruction of the environment. The ETs have a very strong agenda to simply announce their presence and let us know we're not alone. We see that. It's a vigorous publicity campaign. That's what the whole point of the hometown episodes is. That is one of the reasons they're here, just to let us know we're not alone. But no, they're not here to take over. They did not create us. No, I don't believe that for 1 second.
Okay, and that's a good place to end it, but I do want to end it with you talking about where people can go and see those videos you have about UFOs in my hometown, read your articles, or buy your books. You want to give us a closing statement on where they can follow you and buy your books?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Robert. I do have a website, prestondennett.weebly.com. You can contact me through my website and get excerpts of all my books, buy the books through the website or at Amazon or online retailers. I have a YouTube channel. Just punch my name into the internet. It should take you there. I'm on most social media platforms. I do a podcast every Monday evening called The Light Gate, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time with contactee Dolly Saffron. She's my co-host. So we're out there. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find, and I try to be very responsive.
Do you like it when people contact you with kind of reactions or UFO stories, or are you just like, too much, I have enough going on right now?
It is a lot, and I absolutely love it when people contact me, and whether it's just a story or a comment or a question, because a lot of people have no recourse. They have nobody to talk to, even now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I am absolutely overwhelmed, but that's a good thing.
Okay, so so someone watching this show, if they see you on social, they can send you a message, and just, if you can get back to them, you will, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Preston. I really appreciate your time today. The audience doesn't know that you were very flexible. We moved our time back an hour. We're trying to coordinate schedules, but I really appreciate this, and thank you so much for your time today.
You've been listening to the Afraid of Nothing podcast. Please subscribe and like us on Facebook. Until next time, stay scared.
Hey, you're still here? Great. Then why not listen to another episode? Visit afraidofnothingpodcast.com to peruse all the shows. That's afraidofnothingpodcast.com. And while you're there, click the coffee cup icon to buy me a coffee and leave a review. I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming episode, and the world will know how swell you are.